Uh, Good afternoon. So let me solve this problem for you. Abdurrahman asked, I think this problem, and it was also a little bit confusing for me, that one as well, to understand the Swedish terms. But let me also solve this for you. So in this problem, 1113 from this book, we are supposed to find a second degree polynomial p of x that satisfies these conditions. Okay? How we solve this systematically, even if you can guess and your guess is correct, that is not acceptable. You should be able to solve the problem systematically. Okay, so if you want to solve this, because that's an exercise session, I want to ask from you, how do you solve this systematically? So the question is this: determine a second degree polynomial p of x that satisfies these four conditions. Meaning that if you replace x in your polynomial with 1, the output turns out to be 2, and when you replace your x in the polynomial with 2, the answer becomes 5, and so on and so forth. Yes? So what is a systematic way to solve this? Yes, Afsha?
Well, first, because it already says that it has to be a second degree question, we can put x with to the power of 2 plus a would have to be equal to p of x. And then we replace...
No. This is, in this case, because I solved this for Abdirahman, I know it turns out to be of that type. But that's a coincidence. But in general, you are not allowed to write x squared plus a. Of course, x squared plus a is a second degree polynomial. I agree with you. But this is not the most general case. Because before you start solving the problem, you really don't know if this is one of those types. So you cannot exclude other parts. So you need to write the most general form of a second degree polynomial. So I would write p of x. What? Yes?
X squared plus x plus a.
What?
X squared plus x plus
No, still it's not complete. That is extremely important. You said x squared plus ax plus b. So you already determined something when you say this. This is better than what Hafsha said, but this is still not complete. Of course, if you start with this one, because I told you I solved the problem for Abdirahman, so I know the answer. Even if I start from this one, it will work. Even if I start with what Hafsha said, it will work. But that is a coincidence. I could design the question in a smarter way, so that if you have these guesses, you will be in trouble. Yes? Ax squared. Because when you say x squared, you have already determined in your head, for what reason I don't know, that this number is 1. And what Hafsha said, x squared plus a, she has already decided that not only this is 1, but the middle term is 0. Yes, in this case it turns out to be the case. But if you write this, you will not get the full marks, okay? So if I want to solve this, I have to write the most general second degree polynomial ever, okay? And that is ax squared plus bx plus c. This cannot be more general. I cannot write something more general than that, yes? Because when you say I have a second degree polynomial, it means that definitely you have x squared involved, but with which coefficient we don't know. So I put a. And then it is possible that it is not possible to have higher powers, because then it will not be second degree, but it is possible to have lower powers, yes? So how many lower powers there are possible? It is 2, the next lower one is 1, the next lower one is nothing, 0, yes? So this is the most general one. And then one thing immediately was disturbing me when I wanted to solve this problem. Is it also disturbing you? Yes?
That we have, we have 3 unknowns,
yes,
but we have 4 pieces of information.
So we have some extra piece of information.
So the system could be over-constrained
or consistent. So it might happen that they have engineered the problem in a way, I hope so, and when I solved that, I realized, yes, they have engineered the problem so that it is consistent. But let me just repeat this again. How many unknowns you need to answer? A, B, and C are not known, but how many pieces of information you got? 4. So it means that you have some extra piece of information which in principle is not necessary to determine 3 unknowns. So in these kinds of problems, take 3 of them and solve the problem. But do not forget that is also part of the solution. To forget to show that the last one is also consistent. I will talk about this later after the problem is solved. So here, from this, what I see, I read it in this way. I see P of 1 is 2. This is the meaning of this table. So what does it mean? It means that if I go to the polynomial P of x and replace x's with 1, the output is supposed to be 2. So I will do the same thing but in my head. Instead of x, I put 1 everywhere. 1 to power 2, 1 times a is a, plus b times 1 is b, plus c is equal to 2. This is one equation. Another piece of information is this table, is this column. So it is p of 2 is 5. So what does this mean? This means that when I replace x with 2, the answer is supposed to be 5. If you replace x with 2, it becomes 4a plus 2b plus c is equal to 5. And finally, I use that one. P of 3 is equal to 10. This means that if I replace x with 3, which is 9a plus 3b plus c is going to be 10. Okay, but let me write the other one as well. But you already know that. We studied this quite a lot in Math 2C. Do you remember? What is this called? The whole thing? It's a system of equations. 3 equations in how many unknowns? In 3 unknowns. And then hopefully you remember, if not, I just review this here a little bit, how to solve this system. But if you solve the system and even you find the correct answer, but don't say anything in the paper to me about the last piece of information, I have to deduct some points from you, so you have to be careful. So let me just clean this for the time being and try to solve this system. Okay, let me refresh your memory. Can you help me? I have forgotten how to solve this. How do you help me to do that? What was the general strategy to tackle a system of 3 equations and 3 unknowns? Yes?
Was it called substitution method?
Method. So for example, you go to one of these, you choose one of them and eliminate that, substitute that, yes?
But if you just like look at the pattern and get like guess.
No, it's not acceptable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just,
No, it's not
you get
acceptable.
points.
No, it depends. If that's the question, if in the question you need to find the final answer, what matters is the final answer.
Yeah.
But it is not hard for me to construct an example that you cannot guess. And so you need to learn the systematic way. Yes? Yeah. So what you need to do here, you need to solve the problem. So you take C here, for example, and then move these two to the other side. So C becomes 2 minus A minus B. And then you remember, you put it here, and then you also put it here. Okay? So let me just put it here. So this becomes 4A plus 2B. And instead of C, I put 2 minus A minus B. And it is equal to 5, yes? And then let me simplify that. 4A minus A is 3A. 2B minus B is just B. I move 2 to the other side, 3. So that is one equation that I have. Yes? I do the same thing here. I take this C and put it here. So this becomes 9A plus 3B. Instead of C, I put 2 minus A minus B is equal to 10. And then 9A minus 8 is 8A. This is 2B. And I move this to the other side, it becomes 8. But because all of them are divisible by 2, I told you that whenever I can simplify, I simplify. So I divide everything by 2. So this becomes 4A plus B is equal to 4. So you see, do you remember? Let me just tell you the general strategy. The general strategy is to change the system from being 3 equations in 3 unknowns to a system in with 2 equations and 2 unknowns. And then hopefully you already know, even from going to school, on how to solve this. So you set up a system 4a plus b is 4, and then try to solve this equation. I think addition method is easier, yes. I multiply everything here by -1 in my head and add this one to that one. -1 times 3a is minus 3a. When I add it here, it becomes a. -1 times b is minus b. When I add it here, it's gone. -1 times 3, minus 3 added here is 1. So a is 1. And then I put back a here. 3 times 1 plus b is 3. So b is 0. Yes? And now that I know a and b, I take them with me and put them here. And I find c. 2 minus 1 minus 0 is 1. So this means that c is also 1. So this means that I was able to find my polynomial. My polynomial is this. But I know that a is 1, so it becomes x squared. I know b is 0, so it is gone. And I know c is 1. So now you understand, because this was just a coincidence that the answer is this, both of them will work. But that was just a coincidence. But the problem is not finished yet. Because then what happens for this extra piece of information there? I can also check it. But is it valid or not?
So,
Yes, because you see that if I replace x with 4, then 4 to the power of 2 plus 1 is 17, and that is exactly the number written here. Now I want to test your understanding, okay? I give you the same question, but instead of 17, I put 18. And I ask you the same question again, and you have everything on board, so you don't need even to calculate anything. Now I want, so here, in the previous case, if you write as var, this one is acceptable, and that is the problem. But now, this is for the previous case when it was 17. Now when I change it to 18, what do you write for as var? If I change it to 18, give you the same problem, but instead of 17, I write 18. Yes, Ali?
No solutions?
Yes. There are no polynomials of second degree with these properties. Because the only polynomial of second degree that satisfies these three conditions is only one, and that is this one. And then this one will not satisfy this condition, so there are no such a polynomial. Is that understandable? So you cannot say the problem is wrong. No, the problem they can ask. They are asking you find the polynomial of second degree with these properties. You cannot just say there are no answers unless you write everything and then describe in words why you think that there are no such a polynomial. Is that clear? So be careful. I will ask actually Thomas to buy the full solution manual. It's very important whenever you solve, at least page the solution manual to confirm that. Because even if you have started with this wrong assumption, definitely you will get the correct answer. But that is not the correct solution. Yes? Even if you have started from here, you again could get the correct answer. But that's even easier, much simpler. And then you would think that, okay, the problem is very simple. So that's very important to double check if the problem is hard. And then another question, because of the Swedish translation, I was a little bit confused myself. I will give you a little bit of time, everyone, to think about this problem, and then we discuss it together. Okay, thank you, Abdirrahman, for asking the questions. Thanks. So I will actually wait for you to think about this problem, because there are no level 3 problem in this part. The hardest ones are these two probably. Okay, so I will solve them for you. And I will upload my solution to YouTube again. Okay, so I don't know, could you understand the question? So this is the price that you have to pay for the car that you rent based on the number of miles that you drive. So if you drive, for example, 0 miles, it's also interesting because that's the opening fee. If you don't drive at all, if you just sign the contract, you have to pay 1,140 crowns. But after that, if you drive 1 mile, or Swedish mil, let us just call it mile, and then you have to pay 12 crowns extra. Okay? So that's the understanding. It's very simple. So if you drive 10 miles, then you know how much you need to pay. You just put 10 here, 120, and add it here. That's the money that you have to pay. But the question was a little bit tricky for me as well, because that was a little bit a strange way of averaging. Yes. So how do you imagine this problem? So this is the way that I try to understand and describe. So for example, you drive 5 miles, and then you know how much you have to pay. Let us calculate. For example, I'm just talking hypothetically. So then you calculate k of 5. It's a polynomial of degree 1, by the way. So what happens, it is 1,140 crowns plus 12 times 5, which is 60, and then you add it here. If I am done wrong, it becomes this much. Yes? So you pay this much. Yes? Now, you want to recommend this to your friend. It's a good renting shop. And then say that it is cheap. And then I ask you this question, how much do you pay? You can say that, okay, I don't know. I drove 5 miles, and then at the end, I paid 1,200 crowns. Then it is completely reasonable. Then I say that, okay, so in average, you paid how much per mile?
240.
Yes, you divide this money by the miles that you have driven. It was a little bit strange for me in the beginning, but when I was thinking it deeper, I think this is reasonable, isn't it?
Yes.
Is that understandable? So after that one, of course, this is a very strange question, not very strange question. So you pay this money, and then I say that, okay, how they calculate the money that you are supposed to pay. You say that the formula was complicated, I don't know, but I paid this money for 5 miles. Then I would say that, okay, in average, they are charging you 240 crowns per mile. It's reasonable, isn't it? Okay, now we want to answer the question in general. So you drive X miles. In that case, I drove 5 miles. But now I drive X miles. How much I will be charged for that? This amount. And then at the end, my friend asks you, okay, how much they charge you per mile? What's the answer?
Depends on time.
No, just the answer. I want a formula. They have asked you to write an expression. They don't want a number. Yes, boy?
1140 plus 12x divided by x.
X. So that's it. And then if you look at the faucet, that's the answer. So the average price that you pay is this. Is that clear? Okay. Everyone agrees with that? So it's very reasonable. That was confusing me in the beginning, but when I thought deeper, this is reasonable. It's nothing strange about it. And the second question, I don't know the translation exactly, but that's the meaning. Assume that, so this is the question somehow. How much this average increases or decreases, I don't know, if you drive from 100 miles to 200 miles. Yes? So assume that I drive 100 miles, my friend drives 200 miles. I pay some money per mile in average, my friend pays some money per mile per average. We want to compare these averages. Is that understandable? So in principle, the average here, let me find a formula for it. I would recommend you to do it in that way. I divide this by that number, plus I divide this by that number. Yes? And then what is happening is 1,140, but here x and x are simplified. So that is also another way to see the problem. Yes? This 12 is fixed. It's a number, constant. But this number is changing depending on how much you drive. If I drive more, what happens to this number? This number becomes bigger or smaller? smaller. So if I drive more, this is a smaller. So at the end, I am paying less money in average if I drive more. And that is reasonable in every shop. If you buy something in large quantities, the money that you pay for, I don't know, if you are buying 1 kilogram of, I don't know, oranges, you pay some money, but the ICA is buying it from the market with large quantities, they are buying it less per kilo because they are buying a large amount. But that's the same thing. So this is clear that if this contract is good, is better, not good, I mean, that's up to you, but this contract is better if you want to drive longer distances. Because if you drive longer distances, the money that you pay per mile is less than the person who's driving short distances. Okay? And then here we want to quantitatively answer the question how much this increase is. So assume that you drive 100 miles, yes?
But that equation,
Yes?
if you haven't driven anything, it becomes undefined, right?
Yeah, then that's non-defined, yes, an average, yes. Yeah, because that's also very strange, because if you don't drive, if you put your feet in the shop, you have to pay 1,140 if you just sign the contract, yes? If you sign the contract and say that, okay, I don't need the car, then you have to pay that money, yes? But that's up to the company. Anyway, so, but here, let me see. If I drive 100 miles, so what happens for the average? So the average is equal to what? 1,140 divided by 100 plus 120 crowns, yes? So what is this number? It is 1.40 plus 120.
It's 12, right?
Sorry, 12. What is the answer?
23.4.
23.40 crowns, yes? So if I drive 100 miles, the price that I pay for every mile in average is this money. But if I drive 200 miles, what happens for the average? The average becomes less. It becomes 1,140,200 and then plus 20. So can you calculate this for me? So divide this by that. It was how much, do you remember, Abdirahman? The calculation is here. 17.7. 17.7 crowns. So you see that if you drive larger distances, then this is more beneficial because the price per mil reduces to 17.7. And the question is that how much is this difference? So you calculate the difference. 23.40 minus 17.7. If you calculate this, it turns out to be 5.7. And that's the answer. I think that's a good question. It was actually a little bit convoluted for me even, but I realized that no, everything is natural and the question is reasonable. Anything else? Is that understandable? So I think these two problems probably is among the hardest ones here. I will also record this and I will upload these two as a short video to the YouTube. Thank you. Any questions about these?